We're missing someone today. So now that we have our 3 pieces that are musts when we're making any kind of graph, the first thing I want to do is look at sorting the data. So we've got our data here. I'm just sorting it. So I'm looking at the lowest number that I see. It looks to be 65, or 63. I don't see anything lower than the 60s. So I'm going to go ahead and make 6 my lowest stem. And then obviously the highest number that you see would be 100. So my stem is going to be 10. Now because we started with 6 and we're ending with 10, we want to make sure that we have to fill in, regardless if there's data or not, the numbers between 6 and 10. So I like to make some little lines because I also have noticed that sometimes when we don't do that, we end up with leaves that are running into other leaf information. And so we want to keep it as organized as possible. So again, we're just sorting it. So I see 100, so I'm going to put my 0 down and cross that off. 65, I'm going to write my 5 and cross off the 65. 78, record my 8, cross off the 78. 92, cross it off. 63, cross it off. 95, cross it off. 67, cross it off. 71, cross it off. 85, cross it off. 78, cross it off. 98, cross it off. And 80, cross it off. 87, 85, 76, 75, 89, and 96. So now that we have all of the data sorted, we're going to rewrite the data and organize it. Starting with our title. If this information is about class scores from a math assignment, what would be an appropriate title for this information? Carla?
Class scores.
Class scores, or we could even say math scores. And we need to come up with a key. So down here, we need to think about how are we going to represent that key. So I'm going to pick one of our numbers. Let's just pick 8, line 5. And what does 8, line 5 going to represent? 85. The value 85. And now, you're probably going to need to just come and get one of these. This is what I have. Nobody has pencil. You have to come to class prepared. We're going to sort the data by the stem and the leaf. So I'm going to go ahead and make my lines for writing. So we have 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And we're going to organize our leaves from least to greatest. So when I look at these 3 numbers, which one is the smallest one? 63. Then 65. Then 67. When I think about organizing my 7s from least to greatest, I'm going to start with my 1, 71. Then 75, 76, and there are 2 78s. When I look at my 80s, I have 80, 2 85s, an 87, and an 89 that were represented. So how many scores were in the 80s? How many scores were in the 80s? 5 scores. How many scores were in the 60s? 3. Okay, good job. When we look at the 90s, again, how many scores were in the 90s? 4, and we're organizing them from least to greatest, so 92, 95, 96, and 98. And then how many hundreds were displayed in the information? Anaya, only 1. Okay? So now we have some questions that we're going to answer. And so it says, what is the difference between the highest score in the class and the lowest score in the class? And what does the word difference mean? Caden? So we're going to be subtracting. I'm going to make a little subtraction equation blank here. What was the highest score that was represented? Calvin, what was the highest score that was represented in the data? No, the highest score that was represented in the data. Bryson, what is this score right here? It was 100. 100 was the highest score. What was the lowest score that was represented in the data? Pretty. 63. If I subtract these, I'm going to do a little mental math. I know 100 minus 60 is what answer? 40. And I need to think of 3 less than 40 because 63 is 3 more than 60. What would be 3 less than 40? Charlie? 37. Nice job. When we think about number 2 and we think about a fraction, we need to think part over total. And we're talking about the fraction of students in the class that scored higher than 79. So our total would be the number of scores. Number of scores. Our part would be greater than 79. So now I have to go through and I have to count all the scores. Let's count them together. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. How many total scores were represented?
18.
18 is my total. How many were greater than 79? Well, when I go to the 7s and I look, there's not a 79. So I'm going to cross this. I'm going to cover it with my sticky, and I'm going to count the scores that were greater than 79. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That numerator is 10. When I look at this fraction and I see an even number on top and an even number on bottom, what does that tell me? Carla?
It tells you that the part is less than the total.
Well, and is there another name for this fraction? Is 10 even? Is the denominator 18 even?
Yes.
So they can be cut in half. 10 can be cut in half. 18 can be cut in half. What is 10 divided by 2 going to give you? Matthew? 5. And what is 18 divided by 2 going to give you? Bryson? 9. Our new fraction name is 5/9. We're going to pause. All right. So that brings us to our last question, which says, what is the difference between the number of students who scored less than 75 and the number of students who scored more than 79? So what does the word difference mean again? So we're going to set up our subtraction problem. And we're talking about scored less than 75. So I'm going to go right up here, and I'm going to think about numbers that are less than 75. And so that would include these numbers, not 75, but 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers. And then the numbers that are more than 79, so that would include all of those. And we counted those before we went to a large group, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And so what is 10 minus 4 going to give you? Yes, 6. All right? And so that's basically how you use a stem and leaf to answer some questions. All right? Go ahead and fold it in half like a hamburger and glue this in your journal. Then come and have a seat on the floor.